Hi there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan, and recently one of our fans, Jelena Sovavic, sent us a question asking us what exactly did Palpatine do to Coruscant once he took over, with a specific focus on the Jedi Temple. Well, great question, Jelena. Let's see what we can do. The Jedi Temple is what you would call in the real estate world a property with a lot of character. For one, it's one of the most recognizable historical landmarks in the galaxy. The property on which it stands was gifted to the Jedi by the Republic almost 5,000 years before the Battle of Yavin. This was around the time of the beginning of the Great Hyperspace War. This was one of the early Sith Empire excursions into Republic space, and it really further solidified the Jedi's role as guardians of the galaxy, of the Republic. The Republic's whole idea was to give the Jedi prime real estate so that they would build a fortress and then establish a more permanent presence there so people would stop attacking Coruscant. The actual temple was built on top of a sacred spire, which used to be a massive mountain peak before the Seminopolis of Coruscant rose around it and eclipsed it. Just imagine something like Mount Everest, one day being dwarfed by buildings around it, so much so that you can only see its peak and the peak only looks like a tiny hill. That is just how overbuilt Coruscant is. Anyway, the sacred spire was worshipped by the ancient Coruscanti because it was a Force nexus. In layman's terms, this was a location where many pathways of the Force converged, which meant that the area was extremely potent in the Force. Now, sometime before the Jedi started construction of their temple, the Sith actually constructed a Shrine of the Depths over this location in an attempt to corrupt it to the dark side. And so one of the primary reasons for the construction of the Jedi Temple in that location was to neutralize this dark side shrine. But instead, the opposite would happen. The dark shrine's influence would seep outwards and corrupt and slowly blind the Jedi Order. This is one of the major reasons why even powerful Jedi Masters like Yoda claimed that their connection to the Force was being clouded. There's also the death sticks and the late night partying with the Twi'lek call girls. When Darth Sidious finally wiped out the Jedi, one of the first things he did was begin the excavation of that shrine. This was carried out in complete secrecy by machines under the supervision of his personal droid, 11-4D. By the way, this is the best way to really construct a panic room or a secret bunker or an immortality tomb. I mean, you don't want to have to kill all the construction workers, architects, and engineers you hired to build that place that you want to keep secrets. You don't want ghosts inside of your bug-out room. Darth Sidious kept this shrine area as a personal meditation space where he could contemplate the Force and probe the dark side for its most powerful secrets, like how to transfer one's essence when they die. On a side note, there was originally a Clone Wars story arc that was later on cancelled that would feature Ahsoka Tano returning to the Jedi Temple after being framed for the hangar bombing. Ahsoka and several other Jedis would take drilling machines and go underneath the temple where they would uncover the Sith shrine. I really wish they had done this arc instead of the whole Martez sisters thing. I still don't understand the point of that arc. Maybe it was supposed to show us that life was so terrible for Ahsoka out of the Order that she just secretly was desperate to go back. Who knows? Okay, so while the hidden shrine was at the heart of the transformation from the Jedi Temple to the Imperial Palace, there are also a lot of aesthetic changes as well. For one, the intense fighting during Operation Nightfall had caused a massive amount of damage to the building, including several fires that grew quickly out of control. Jedi head librarian Joe Costanu also returned to the archives and had some fun with a handheld lightsaber-powered Death Star laser, which made a lot of holes in walls. Then there was, of course, all the blood spilt inside of the temple from the fighting, both clone and Jedi blood. The reality is you can scrub the carpets and polish the stones as much as you want, but you'll never be able to remove the stain of lumpy, tormented Jedi youngling souls forever trapped in the walls of the building. Angry and terrible deaths lead to equally angry and terrible afterlife and spirits and Force ghosts and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you couldn't fly through the Endor system after the Galactic Civil War without smelling Palpatine's stanky, stale old man Force residue. It was just disgusting. Anyway, Palpatine would give Colonel Alva Bren the privilege and responsibility of renovating the Jedi Temple into the Imperial Palace. Now, Palpatine didn't want her to change the general structure of the building because I guess he wanted it to remain as a sign of the Jedi's greatest failure, LOL, but what he did want Colonel Bren to do was to remove all signs of the Jedi from the building. This meant taking down the iconic four Masters statues at the front entrance of the building. These were the four founders of the original temple all those years before. She also removed all of the furnishing, tapestry, signage, and even the furniture. And so the new Imperial Palace was surprisingly sparse and empty inside. The only thing that would adorn the massive building's concrete columns would be giant Imperial flags and banners. The exterior of the building would also feature large red banisters as well. One of the temple halls, however, was redone into a giant ballroom with ornately tiled and mirrored walls and crystalline sculptures. This would be used for state functions and ceremonies. The central spire, which is where the Jedi Council used to hold their meetings in, was basically left empty for several months after the takeover of the Jedi Temple. Vader would eventually return there to access some records and perhaps relive some of the fun he had there during Order 66. But eventually this part of the building would be converted into an office/throne room for Palpatine. It had an excellent view of the surrounding federal district. And as mentioned before, the walls were soaked with the blood of innocents and their fear and anger. Which, of course, is a great place for a Sith Lord to really center themselves and relax. If this were a Zillow ad, that would be probably my first line of copy. Palpatine's office also served as a private throne room, for it was here that he would summon his most powerful henchmen like Darth Vader and Thrawn to do his bidding. Palpatine would also have a larger public throne room downstairs for less important audiences. The Jedi Archives was perhaps one of the largest and oldest continuous collections of not only Jedi history and secrets, but the records of the entire galaxy, including the Sith. This was the true value hidden within the Jedi Order, and Palpatine, like any good Sith, browsed through all of those secrets of the Jedi Archives before allowing the Imperial Security Bureau to basically take everything from it and destroy any Jedi-related materials, so that any future attempts to revive the Jedi Order would be futile. This is why poor Luke Skywalker basically spends his entire life in the Outer Rim in terrible places looking for information. Now, in the old Republic days, the Jedi Temple precinct was unique on the surface of Coruscant because it was kept clear of clutter and buildings. The long processional way was a road that ran from the edges of the precinct directly to the steps of the temple, creating a sense of tranquility in this otherwise hectic city. Zoning laws had prevented other buildings from eclipsing the Jedi Temple, and so the surrounding area was just one gigantic courtyard. The Empire would use all of this open space as a landing field for capital ships like the Venator and Victory-class Star Destroyer. The square would also be used to display military parades, and it was before this grand square that Mas Amedda would host a celebration of the destruction of the Jedi Order by destroying all of the lightsabers recovered during Operation Nightfall. Ultimately, Palpatine, like a lot of leaders here on Earth, took over a hated enemy's symbolic structure and then repurposed it for his own uses. While the interior of the Jedi Temple was gutted and changed, the Imperial Palace's exterior was more or less unchanged in shape. And so the Imperial Palace would loom over Coruscant as a kind of headstone or tomb for the Jedi Order. The Jedi Temple precinct itself was located in the Senate district of Coruscant. This is where the main Galactic Senate building sat in front of the Senate Plaza. This is also where the Avenue of Core Founders was found. This was lined by statues of important Republic leaders. The Legislative District, along with the Senate offices and housing, were also located here. Even after the rise of the New Order, Palpatine would maintain his suite of offices here from the time he was the Supreme Chancellor. Let's just say he has a lot of fond memories in that building. This was also the location of the luxurious residential tower known as 500 Republica. This was probably one of the most exclusive residential towers in the galaxy, and it was here that Sheev Palpatine would also maintain an apartment. The Senate District would be renamed the Federal District, and new offices would be built for the Naval Intelligence Headquarters along with a massive complex for Copnor. This was the Commission for the Preservation of the New Order. It was the Galactic Empire agency responsible for the promotion of the New Order ideology, aka the propaganda wing for the Empire. The central office for the Imperial Security Bureau would also be located here, along with the joint headquarters of the Imperial Army and Imperial Navy. What used to be the seat of Republic power would now become the center of the Empire's military-first government. And when Palpatine fell during the Battle of Endor, the Federal District was the last district to fall to Coruscant after the entire planet rose up in resistance. In his last days, Grand Vizier Mas Amedda would basically become a prisoner in the Imperial Palace. So as you can see, that's what Palpatine did to the Jedi Temple and Coruscant once he took over. It was mostly aesthetic changes. All of the essential infrastructure all remained the same. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. As usual, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.